Can you talk? Strange, she just screamed. Flona pursed her lips, muttering softly, Caden, tilt your head closer. What did you say? He stepped back slightly, his eyes full of wariness. What do you want? The man suddenly widened his eyes and blurted out, You're beautiful. Flona was stunned by his abruptness. Was this man crazy? Let me go. No, since we've met, let's get closer. Who wants to be with someone as dangerous as you? The ambient lights ignored her resistance, tilting their heads, their brows furrowed, as if recalling something. But no matter how I look at you, you look a lot like someone I know. I remember now, you wouldn't happen to be Miss Flona from the Langrid Empire, would you? The girl still bumped into the man she least wanted to provoke. This man was not only intrigued by her, but also recognized her identity at a glance. You wouldn't happen to be that crazy Miss Flona from the Langrid Empire, would you? He cursed inwardly. You're the crazy one. The whole family watched as he remained silent, while Rainbow slowly and deliberately talked about her long hair. She seemed to have the same hair color. Flora finally lost her temper and slapped him away. How dare you call me a madman and say such things in front of a lady? Don't you think it's in the city? Caden blinked, his gaze fixed intently on him. Flora's heart skipped a beat. He reassured himself. It's all right, Rainbow. Back then, when she went to Flora's mansion to request the cessation of funding for the experiment, we only met for a fleeting moment. After so much time, she definitely wouldn't recognize him as Margaret. Sure enough, he didn't dwell on the topic. Then who are you? He took a step closer. I'm Caden Blackrohard. Do you know me? He hurriedly shook his head. Really? But you really aren't Miss Flora. She said no, that's good. Her smile remained, but her aura instantly plummeted to freezing point. Because I utterly loathe that woman. A chilling killing intent washed over me, and Flora's blood seemed to freeze, his heart pounding wildly. This was completely different from how he felt facing Enoch. Caden truly intended to kill him. Suddenly, Caden looked up at the sky. Then he looked down again, as if searching for something in the air. His gaze finally locked onto Flora, and the next second, Caden pulled him into a sudden embrace. Flora instantly bristled. What are you doing? Caden's cheeks flushed an unnatural red. He buried his face in Flora's neck, sniffing greedily, his voice filled with confusion. Strange, you smell sweet. Warm breath brushed against his neck, and Flora's hair stood on end. But he immediately sensed it. This man was distracted. Now was the time. He kicked him hard, and the man screamed, collapsing to his knees in a sorry state. Flora didn't dare delay and turned to run. Even if Caden didn't kill him now, he would eventually. Ahead lay a steep cliff, but without hesitation, he grabbed a vine hanging overhead and leaped across. Caden caught up with him, narrowly missing his hair as he landed gracefully. Looking back, only one thought occupied his mind. He refused to live in constant fear of death. One Enoch was already enough for him. Caden stared at his retreating figure, his face filled with disbelief. Was this really the delicate noblewoman? He'd only stopped when he was too exhausted to run any further, and without noticing, he'd casually brought her along. Seeing that the time for the demon's appearance was approaching, and there was no time to rush back to the cave for Enoch, he had to worry about himself first. Fortunately, there was a hiding place nearby. He decided to spend the night there and return at dawn. Suddenly, something touched his foot. He picked it up and saw it was a first aid kit. Flona was almost moved to tears. A surge of hope rushed through her. Iodine, fever reducers, and painkillers were all included. Perhaps due to the fusion with Margaret's memories, its speed in recognizing characters was a bit slow, but that didn't matter. With it, Enoch's injuries could be healed. Just then, a deafening roar suddenly came from behind. Flona instantly grabbed his medicine box and scrambled under the stone slab. The monster had arrived so early. The footsteps grew clearer and clearer as they approached, stopping outside the stone slab, seemingly searching for something. He held his breath and looked out, feeling as if he had fallen into an ice cave. The creature stopped in front of the stone slab, its thigh twice the thickness of an adult male's, its body covered in dark brown fur. The thick fur was definitely not human. As if sensing something, the monster suddenly turned and crouched in front of the stone slab. Oh no, had it discovered him? If this continued, he would definitely be torn to pieces and eaten. In his panic, Enoch's face flashed into his mind. Flona couldn't help but think, if only he were here. At the critical moment, a loud knocking sound suddenly came from afar. The monster paused, turned, and walked towards the direction of the sound. Flona collapsed to the ground, his body trembling uncontrollably. He tightly covered his mouth to prevent a sob from escaping. That night, he slept with vigilance and fear. This was the first time he had missed Enoch. What kind of monster was that? The original work described the appearance and evolution of monsters, but never such a bizarre species. He carefully recalled the wolf-like monsters he encountered later, and they were different from the first one. What was going on? The difficulty had increased? Could he really leave this island alive? When Flona rushed back to the cave, he found it empty. His heart sank. Although he had considered running away more than once, he had never expected Enoch to leave first. Had he encountered Yuna? He unconsciously clenched his fists. If he had encountered Yuna, he would have abandoned someone like her without hesitation. Since she was gone, he had no reason to stay here any longer. Let's stick to the original plan and find the cabin and bunker. The fallen medicine bottle rolled forward and suddenly stopped. Flona looked up and saw Enoch standing at the cave entrance, panting heavily, his chest heaving. His voice filled with an indescribable urgency. Margaret froze and after a long pause, managed to stammer, I thought you had left. It seems you're all right, that's great. But unexpectedly, the man's eyes suddenly flashed with a fierce light. Flona was bewildered. Why was he glaring at him again? Had something happened while he was gone? Or did he think he had run away? Wait a minute, I said I went to find herbs. Although I didn't bring back any herbs, I found a first aid kit. It's practically a godsend. As soon as he finished speaking, he remembered that Enoch didn't understand what a godsend was, and quickly added, basically, if you're injured, you can use this ability. The words stopped abruptly. Enoch suddenly reached out and grasped her shoulders, his voice trembling almost imperceptibly. Don't do this anymore. I won't get hurt again. So don't do anything so dangerous for me. The appearance of the colored lights had enraged Enoch, and after this separation from the girl, he had finally come to understand his own heart. For the first time, he, who had never believed in gods, prayed to God that the girl he had once loathed would be safe. When Enoch regained consciousness, the setting sun had already painted the sky crimson. He looked around blankly, only to find himself in a cave, a sharp pain shooting through the wound on his right arm. He recognized it as a fragment of Margaret's dress. He hadn't expected her to treat wounds. This surprise quickly turned to worry. The figure was nowhere to be found. He vaguely remembered the girl saying she was going to find herbs, though only briefly, during the few days they had spent together. He already knew a little about the place. For example, the monsters attacking them weren't active during the day, only appearing at dusk, which meant it was dangerous outside. Enoch, running through the forest, couldn't even pinpoint the source of his current urgency. Normally, he would never risk his life for Flona like this. He clearly hated him, yet everything Flona had done for him, things churned in his mind. Without him, would he have survived until now? Those venomous words, now each one felt like a branding iron, burning hot. How could he be so awful to him? How terrified Flona must have been when he first awoke on this strange, deserted island. Instead of showing any compassion, he had hurt him with the most cutting words. That night, Enoch prayed fervently all night, hoping Margaret would survive. He hoped she was safe and sound. Now this person was back by his side. Unlike Enoch's complex emotions, the girl was completely bewildered. Your Highness, are you? The man corrected. Enoch. He moved closer to the girl, gently touching her forehead. From now on, call me Enoch. The girl was even more confused. Enoch found it strange. He couldn't possibly be this kind to Margaret. She'd heard that people change in extreme environments. Was that why? Suddenly, her cheek was cupped in his hands, the man's voice laced with barely suppressed anger. You're injured. Who did this? Floor felt incredibly uncomfortable, slapping his hand away. It's nothing, just a minor injury. How novel. Your Highness is speaking to me like this? Haven't your fever subsided yet? He deliberately mimicked his former tone. I have no affection for you, miss, so I hope you won't harbor any unrealistic expectations. It will only cause trouble for both of us. Enoch. Her heart trembled violently. He knelt on the spot, head bowed, his bangs obscuring the turbulent emotions in his eyes. The girl shook her head. Did those words really hurt him that much? But now's not the time to be soft-hearted. He stood up. I'm so hungry. I'm practically starving. Let's go hunting first. Of course, I'll treat your wounds first. Enoch stared at him intently, finally managing only a thank you. Floan took out the first aid kit and began by disinfecting. It will hurt a bit, but you'll have to bear it, he said. It was more troublesome than he imagined. Fortunately, the wound hadn't started to bleed. Sigh. Enoch thought, somewhat surprised at his skill in bandaging. Floan packed up the kit. You can move now, he asked suspiciously. How did you know what those medicines were? The girl's heart skipped a beat. How was he going to explain? You know about the eastern continent across the sea, right? It's their language. I learned a little bit. Enoch's eyes held a hint of doubt, but he didn't press further. I see. The girl breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, I managed to get away with it using Margaret's memories. But why did the author include a modern first aid kit? Enoch spoke again. Aren't you going to tell me about the wound on your face? Flona thought for a moment, realizing there was no need to hide her encounter with Caden, since they would meet again later. I met a strange man, and I was hit by an ornament on her clothes. What happened? Because I was pinned down by him at the time. With a crisp sound, the stone in Enoch's hand was crushed into powder. Do you know who that man is? I picked up the thing that hit my face. It must be his. Enoch looked closely. It was the pattern of the magic tower. The girl thought he recognized it immediately, but he's more worried about something else. Your Highness, will you still lose control when you see she? Enoch's body stiffened abruptly. That panic, I didn't let Flona off the hook. I know this question is impolite, but if we're going to work together, I need to know this. Enoch sighed. It can flare up continuously. I only developed this symptom after returning from the battlefield. Because I don't see blood in the palace, I'm usually fine. The girl pressed. Don't you know how to control it? His eyes began to dart away, as if there was something he couldn't say. Flona recalled something from not long ago. Back then, his manic emotions had stabilized. He clearly had a way to suppress the attacks. What was the reason? Just then, the man finally spoke. Margaret, you were the one who told me to stop that day. Only your words seemed to work on me. Not long ago, under Flona's persistent questioning, Enoch revealed the method to stop his madness. Because of his status, whether it was during his childhood conflicts with his brothers or when he went berserk on the battlefield, no one had ever told him to stop his assistant. Perhaps what I need is someone who can stop me. I've said before that this is a war after effect. Because the memories of battle at Rome Horizon are too horrific, I lose control whenever I see blood. As he spoke, he opened his palm. Flona's heart tightened, but his expression remained calm. The minor wound was nothing to worry about. The girl breathed a sigh of relief, instantly understanding the reason. Before Enoch ascended to the throne, probably no one dared to help him, much less comfort him. If there truly was a spell to control his madness, it would likely be what you said back then. The original reason. Anna barely suppressed his madness through physical intimacy. But it couldn't fundamentally cure the problem. From the very beginning, who could have imagined that such a powerful man would crave being controlled? It was good that there was a way. Floor earnestly instructed. From now on, whenever there's bloodshed, you must immediately avoid it. Enoch obediently nodded. I'm sorry, but what medicine did you put on the wound? Enoch took a few drops and moved closer to her, causing Floor to instinctively back away. But the more she dodged, the closer Enoch got. "I think this also needs some medicine," he said, gently applying ointment to the wound near the girl's eye. "I've already told you what that man did to you. I kicked him and ran away, but I got lost and hid in the woods until dawn." Enoch's heart finally settled. "Before escaping this island, don't act alone again. That's what I was planning anyway," he replied, but in his heart he thought, now that he'd encountered Caden guarding Enoch, he couldn't feel at ease. He had to find the bunker quickly. Unfortunately, after days of travel and exhaustion, he finally fell ill, unexpectedly getting an upset stomach. Even if it's troublesome, he had to drink filtered and boiled water. Luckily, his petticoat was pure cotton, which could be used as a filter. To his surprise, the usually unruly Enoch stayed by his side, taking care of him. If the plot hadn't unfolded as in the original story, he might not have had to run away from Enoch. But then he thought, what if he encountered the female lead later? If Enoch turned out like in the original story, wouldn't all his efforts have been in vain? Hopefully, he could find the bunker's location before then. "Didn't I tell you to rest more?" A familiar voice sounded behind him. The girl blinked. "But people need to eat to survive." The man shook his head helplessly, his tone softening. "Fine, I'll listen to you. Let's go back and fill our stomachs first." But as they walked, Enoch suddenly stopped. The girl, clutching her forehead where she'd been bumped, was about to snap when he stopped her. He followed Enoch's gaze and saw a man lying in front of them. It was Caden Flo, whom he'd encountered not long ago. Enoch caught the fleeting look of fear on her face and immediately guessed this was the man who had injured her. He was about to teach him a lesson. "Wait!" Flo suddenly stepped in front of him, seemingly puzzled. Enoch looked at her. "Margaret," he thought, but he had no time to think about that. He turned to check if the man was still alive. "It really is Caden," Enoch said, stepping forward. "He's the one who injured you." Flo was also somewhat surprised. "We clearly shook him off. Did he get lost?" Enoch's tone suddenly turned cold. "It's better to tie him up. He's definitely a dangerous person." Flo gestured for her to speak softly. It was getting dark, and before sunset, her words were still unfinished. A sudden, sharp pain shot through his wrist. Caden, still unconscious, had grabbed him. Enoch rushed over anxiously. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine, just a little startled. Let's take him back first." Floor tried to pry his hand off, but it was as firm as an iron clamp. Enoch stepped forward. "I'll do it. Next." In seconds, their hands were separated, though the hand gripping Caden's was somewhat tainted by personal grudges from Enoch. "Thank you." He was interrupted, leaving a mark. Nock's tone was icy. He pulled her close, Zhou Shen's killing intent surging. "You want me to kill this guy?" "Wait, absolutely not. Why kill him? It's just a mark on his wrist." Flora grabbed him tightly, urgently saying, "Enoch, you have to hold back. You have to control yourself." This urgent attempt to stop him didn't make him angry anymore. Instead, he chuckled. He lay on the ground, laughing uncontrollably. "I understand, since it's your idea. But this guy seems to be a great mage. Caden may be an eyesore, but his knowledge of magic might come in handy. Let's move the luggage over first, then come back for him." "But how about we tie him up when we get back?" Flora was slightly surprised that Enoch was actually asking for his opinion. It seemed his trust in him had increased considerably. The thought had barely formed when she saw the man's face darken. "If you don't agree, I'll just throw it away. Okay?" He was overthinking it. Flona patted her skirt. "Don't worry, I agree with you. Let's tie him up now." What surprised him was where Caden had gotten his injuries. Flona suddenly remembered the loud noise echoing in the forest that day. Could it have been him? "I'll ask him when he wakes up," she thought, looking at Enoch. "He's badly injured. You absolutely mustn't look this way." Enoch trembled, his face contorted with extreme restraint. He gritted his teeth, his voice hoarse. "Looks like I'll have to be tied up too." Damn it, almost instinctively, the girl kicked Enoch's assistant hard, knocking him over. His cheeks instantly turned bright red, but he froze on the spot, not moving an inch. Even the previous ferocity faded from his voice, leaving only a pleading, almost humble one. "Margaret," she said, "let me go." Only at this moment did the girl finally confirm that the method actually worked. Otherwise, pushing him away with Enoch's monstrous strength would have been a simple matter of moving a finger. Yet he had become compliant because she was stepping on him. She ordered Enoch to stop again, and the man immediately passed out. Flora quickly tied him up, thinking, thankfully nothing serious happened. But when his gaze swept over the two large figures lying on the ground, a surge of rage welled up within him. Emotions surged instantly. How did these guys even survive in the original story? Should she stop thinking about it or treat the wounds first? Not long after, Enoch transformed, and Flora knelt before him, a hint of displeasure in her beautiful eyes. "Are you all right?" she asked, reaching out to untie him. The man spoke in a hoarse voice. "I'm so ashamed to face you. Is the wound all right?" Flora shrugged. "I disinfected Caden's wound. I also used a hemostatic agent. It should be fine, right?" Alok suddenly raised his hand, his fingertips gently tracing her cheek. "Not that magician, I mean your sudden intimate contact made him stiffen. What could possibly happen to me?" Enoch's fingertips curled slightly, his tone abruptly changing. "If you want to get rid of that guy, just tell me. Any time is fine." Flo was speechless. "You're at it again." The man raised an eyebrow. If only that were the case. The girl sighed deeply. If this continued, she'd go crazy too. The two of them stayed by the unconscious Caden's side all night. His body temperature remained high. Could it be poisonous like the monster that attacked Enoch? He still hadn't woken up by the next day, but thankfully his breathing wasn't as rapid. They decided to scout the area, but the deeper they went into the dense forest, the hotter Flo felt. The saturated cabins, he remembered, were located at the foot of a massive mountain and on a steep cliff. Last time he climbed to the top, he observed that the island had 3 enormous mountains. If the treasure hut wasn't on this mountain, they'd have to try their luck on the other 2. He was a little dizzy, perhaps from the heat, and for a moment, his foot struck a dead branch. Luckily, Enoch stopped him in time. "Margaret, be careful," he warned, but the girl was drawn to the scar on his arm. Could it be the one from the battlefield? Enoch suddenly spoke, and Margaret jolted away as if electrocuted. Enoch looked puzzled. "Are you all right?" "No, I'm fine, just too hot." He inwardly pounded the wall in frustration. Even if it's hot, you can't just touch someone like that. Suddenly, he lifted her up, carrying her horizontally. She panicked instantly. "Put me down." But the man continued walking forward. "You'll faint. There's a thin stream not far ahead. Even if you don't like it, please bear with it." Flor stared at him, finally giving a soft reply. A short while later, they reached the west. The instant he entered the water, most of the heat dissipated. Enoch turned around. "I'll watch over you. Come out when you're cool enough. Oh, and if you need anything." He trailed off as the girl started talking about long hair. Sunlight danced on his beautifully sculpted back, like it was coated with tiny golden rays, dazzling and captivating. The girl, oblivious, turned to look at him questioningly. "What did you just say?" Enoch's cheeks flushed instantly, and he stammered, "And nothing. If you need anything, just tell me." The girl responded casually, the gentle patter of water echoing in her ears. Enoch, his heart felt like it was about to leap out of his chest. His muscles tensed, constantly telling himself to stay calm. "Enoch, what on earth are you thinking about with a young lady?" Just then, Hundred was gently pulled back. A girl's hesitant voice came from behind. My hands can't reach my back. Could you help me unbutton this?" The man shuddered. "What did you say?" Flona forced a smile. "Could you help me unbutton this?" He was truly at a loss. His arms were too short to reach the buttons, but this was his only outfit. He couldn't go back in wet clothes. Enoch covered his face, feeling like he was going crazy. His gaze shifted downwards, and the skin that had just shone brightly in the sunlight suddenly came into view. Flona grabbed his hair, looking even more nervous than him. After a long while, a hand finally reached out. He was clearly very unaccustomed to doing this, his fingers clumsily moving. "It's really pitiful, Margaret," she suddenly asked. "After leaving this island, what do you want to do most?" The girl thought for a moment. "First, I want to take a hot bath with soap, and then have a good meal." He recalled the last proper meal he had at the Flora Manor, an absolute delicacy. Though he hadn't tasted it himself, the memory of it, belonging to Margaret, was already intertwined with his own. But no matter how delicious the food in this world might be, no matter how many priceless jewels he could wear, he still missed the place where he was born. Even if he was just an orphan, even if it was a place no one would welcome him back. "And Enoch, what about you? What do you want to do after you leave here?" He paused, not continuing. Flora waved his fist in displeasure. "What?" I answered honestly, "and you just brushed me off." His waving arm was suddenly grabbed, and Enoch leaned closer. "But Margaret, if I really say it, you'll probably feel awkward." The girl turned sharply, looking troubled. "What does that mean?" Before she could finish speaking, she felt a light tap on her back. "Your buttons have been undone for a while now, but I haven't seen you move at all." Flo's cheeks flushed crimson, and she whirled around, glaring at him. "You should have told me sooner." The man, however, innocently raised his hands, apologizing profusely. What a smooth talker. The girl ran westward, her face burning red. "Really, you absolutely mustn't look back." After Flo had completely relaxed in the stream, she prepared to continue exploring the island with Enoch, but her dress, which she had left on the shore, had vanished. He lowered his voice and asked Enoch, who was nearby, "Where did I put my clothes?" The man fidgeted with his fingers. "I don't understand. Why are you asking me where the dress you took off is?" Flo's voice was panicked. "My clothes seem to be gone." The man realized something was wrong and was about to turn around when the girl's sharp scream stopped him. He froze, and Flo hurriedly half-submerged in the water. "I didn't hear anyone approaching. Could there be someone else on this island?" Enoch picked up his weapon from beside him. "I'll go scout around. You stay here, wait a moment." With that, he walked deeper into the dense forest, while Flor remained where he was. What on earth was going on? Meanwhile, Enoch followed the tracks on the ground and quickly caught up with the furtive figure. With a single swift movement, he pinned the man to the ground. So many familiar faces on this island, don't you think? Sir Diego, the man pinned to the ground, was filled with terror. Who would have thought that the one who stole the prisoner's uniform was none other than the revered ruler of the Langrid Empire? "Chief, according to Diego, he suddenly lost consciousness during training and woke up here. I have 2 companions with me, Your Highness, whom you also know, Prince Astel and Ruzef. They are, after all, like me." Enoch's eyes darkened. He initially thought it was the example of the deposed Crown Prince Rodfan, but now it seemed there were not only Langriders here, but even Hestia. Who was behind all this? A game of chess, but his sharp gaze swept over Sir Diego's companions. Was there anyone among them who needed women's clothing? Diego immediately explained, "The situation was urgent, and some of my companions needed such clothes. This dress doesn't seem like something Prince Astel or Vice Bishop Ruggie would wear. Are you doubting me?" Enoch Joshin unleashed a powerful killing intent, his spear tip pointing at Diego again. "Answer my question, Diego." Panic struck instantly. "Your Highness, I am a knight of the Langrid Empire, not your enemy. Why didn't you say that when you stole my companion's clothes?" Diego could no longer hide it and finally confessed through gritted teeth. "Among my companions is Saintess Anna Lucy, a saintess with inherent divine power who has only appeared once in 100 years in the Empire." The truth, far from surfacing, became even more elusive, and a surge of anger rose in Enoch's heart. Even clergy couldn't escape this calamity, so gods don't exist after all. But now, the important thing was his question. Didn't that woman have clothes? This dress is the only clothing my companion had. Since you even stole this, saying the spinster was naked would be a more appropriate excuse. Seems I was right. Hand over the clothes immediately. Diego dared not hesitate any longer and hurriedly took out the clothes, respectfully handing them to Enoch. Enoch took them and coldly ordered, "We'll meet here every 10 days. If you move to a distant place, inform me in advance and don't let your companions know." Enoch turned to leave, but Diego panicked. "Aren't you coming with me?" Enoch paused, glancing back at him with chilling eyes. "I think I said you only need to answer my questions." Diego bowed again. "Yes, ma'am. And if you find a way to escape this island, contact me. Don't appear with me. If you dare to love me, I won't let you go." Flona sat on a rock by the shore, wearing only a thin underskirt. A gust of cold wind made him sneeze twice. Just as he was wondering where Enoch had gone, the man finally returned, bringing back clothes. The girl excitedly stood up, but as soon as she regained her balance, a violent dizziness struck, and she fell straight back into the icy stream. When she awoke again, she was back in the cave. A voice came from above, "You're awake." He then realized he was resting his head on Enoch's lap. What was going on? Enoch's voice carried a hint of weariness. "I'm sorry, you suddenly developed a fever, like you caught a chill. I wanted to give you medicine, but I didn't know which one to choose." Flora followed his gaze and saw the first aid kit's medicines scattered on the floor. Enoch gave a self-deprecating laugh. "I've never felt so helpless in my life." "It's not your fault," Flora quickly reassured him. But then, he suddenly remembered something. "By the way, where did you find my clothes?" Enoch had met Sir Diego through me. Flora's heart tightened. Diego, the one known for his uprightness and unwavering adherence to chivalrous principles in the Empire, stealing a woman's clothes while she was bathing. Had his chivalry been eaten by a dog? Enoch suddenly bowed. "He was originally one of my men, so I should apologize for the sir's rudeness." "No, why are you apologizing?" "Because you're afraid of him. The straightforward Diego detests your attempts to curry favor with me. Every time he sees you, his attitude is exceptionally sharp, so I concealed the fact that the clothes belong to you. If you feel you must personally accept his apology, then I will bring him to—" A strange, indescribable feeling welled up in Florna's heart. We clearly agreed not to cause each other trouble, but what is all he doing now? "Oh well, I'll take revenge myself later." Classical Chinese, Enoch smiled, reaching out to gently touch Florna's head. The man's laughter was deep and hearty. I knew Florna would instantly bristle. What's this guy laughing at? Does he think he's a dog? However, Enoch's touch didn't make him feel uncomfortable. On the contrary, it gradually calmed her down. Was it because no one had ever treated her like this when she was Li Jinju? So this is what it feels like to be touched on the head. Wait, besides Sir Diego, is there no one else? Sigh. Nock looked away. I don't know why the girl is acting this way. If we want to escape the island, wouldn't it be better if we acted together? You're right, but it's similar to our situation. We know nothing. But we agreed to meet every 10 days to exchange information, so you don't need to worry. Floor temporarily accepted this explanation, but then he suddenly remembered the scene before he fainted. He was only wearing a slip. Thinking this, he abruptly looked at Enoch, who was startled. He coughed twice, trying to cover his embarrassment. I changed your clothes, but I tried to close my eyes and not look at you. Floor's voice came softly. So you still saw? Enoch fell silent. Floor felt a surge of heat rush to his head. If he were in Margaret's shoes, how would he ever get married? You're worried about this? Wouldn't marrying me solve the problem? The woman instantly bristled. Are you serious? When I said I wanted to marry you before, you rejected me because you hated me. But the situation then is different from now. Flona's heart skipped a beat. He actually said he was different, but the current Margaret was him. What was the point of saying all this if he was Margaret? He dared not think any further and hurriedly changed the subject. Caden Enoch pointed to the white-haired man sleeping soundly on the ground. Although the guy had also had a fever last night, he seemed to be fine now. Flona breathed a sigh of relief, hurriedly stood up and ran away. Thank you for your hard work. My fever seems to have gone down too. You should rest well. I'll go sleep over there. Knowing he was avoiding the issue, Enoch could only sigh helplessly. Good night. But the girl never expected that Caden would ambush him in the middle of the night.